All right, sunshine enthusiast, you are diving deep into the world of vitamin D today. We're going to unpack some research you sent over, and trust me, things are about to get interesting. Vitamin D is essential, but did you know you can actually have too much of a good thing? Even sunshine in the wrong doses can have downsides.
Hmm,
And get this, one of the first things that jumped out from your research is that vitamin D isn't even technically a vitamin, it's a hormone.
that's right. And that little distinction makes a big difference. Vitamins are nutrients our bodies can't make themselves, but hormones are internal messengers that regulate all sorts of functions.
hmm
So understanding vitamin D as a hormone helps us understand its power and why too much of it can throw things out of whack.
Okay, that makes sense. But overdosing on sunshine, how's that even possible? I thought our bodies just soak up what they need.
Well, there are two ways we get vitamin D. From sunlight, which our skin converts, and from food. Now, our bodies are pretty smart. They actually have a built-in mechanism to prevent us from making too much vitamin D from the sun alone.
So if it's not the sun, that means supplements.
It's exactly. Overdosing is much more likely to happen if you're taking mega doses of vitamin D supplements, especially without proper guidance. One of your sources even had an example of a woman who accidentally took a massive daily dose for months because she misread the instructions.
Yeah, that story was a bit scary. It really highlights why following medical advice and reading those labels carefully is so important.
Absolutely. More isn't always better, especially when you're dealing with powerful hormones.
So let's say someone does end up with way too much vitamin D. What happens? What should they be looking out for?
The early signs are actually pretty common. Nausea, vomiting, feeling tired all the time. But these aren't just passing discomforts, they're often symptoms of something called hypercalcemia.
Hypercalcemia, that sounds intense.
It basically means there's too much calcium in your blood. Now, vitamin B helps us absorb calcium, which is crucial for strong bones and other functions. But when calcium levels get too high, it disrupts those functions and things start to go haywire.
Okay, so I see the connection there. But this is where I get a bit confused. Isn't vitamin D supposed to be good for our bones? How can it also weaken them?
That's a great question, and it highlights how vitamin D's effect on bone health is actually a team effort. You see, while vitamin D helps us absorb calcium, it's vitamin K2 that directs that calcium to the right places, like our bones and teeth.
So it's like vitamin D brings in the building blocks and vitamin K2 makes sure they go where they're needed.
Exactly. Without enough vitamin K2, that extra calcium from megadosing vitamin D can actually end up deposited in soft tissues and arteries instead of your bones, which can weaken them over time. It's a delicate balance.
So basically popping huge amounts of vitamin D without thinking about K2 is like throwing a wrench in the whole system, right?
That's a great analogy. And if that hypercalcemia persists, you can even run into more serious problems, like kidney damage and even heart issues. It's definitely not something to mess around with.
This is making me rethink my whole relationship with vitamin D. It's clearly not as simple as just more is better.
You've hit the nail on the head. This actually ties into a bigger conversation about our modern lifestyles. We spend more time indoors, we use sunscreen, which is important for skin protection, and we're relying more and more on supplements. All these things can affect our vitamin D levels.
So what does this mean for someone listening right now? Should they be running to get their vitamin D levels checked?
Well, that's a question best left for their doctor. But what's important is being aware of both sides of the coin, deficiency and excess. Knowing your individual needs and making informed choices about sun exposure, diet, and supplements, that's what matters.
Speaking of supplements, your research also mentioned that not all forms of vitamin D are created equal. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
You're right. There are two main types you'll see on the shelves, vitamin D2 and vitamin D3. While both can raise your vitamin D levels, studies suggest that D3 might be better at maintaining those levels over time.
So if someone is considering a supplement, D3 might be the way to go.
Again, it's always best to chat with a healthcare professional about your specific needs. But knowing the difference can help you ask the right questions and make a more informed decision.
This deep dive is really highlighting the importance of finding that sweet spot, right? Getting enough vitamin D to reap the benefits without going overboard.
Precisely. And remember, sunshine isn't the only source. You can get vitamin D through certain foods, too.
Right. Fatty fish eggs, fortified foods. It's all about a holistic approach. Safe sunshine, smart food choices, and talking to your doctor about supplements if you need them.
Exactly. It's about empowering yourself with knowledge and being proactive about your well-being.
All right, so we've covered the benefits, the risks, the supplements. Where does this all leave us? What's the big takeaway for our listener today?
Well, I think the bottom line is that vitamin D is a powerful hormone with a vital role in our health. But like most things in life, it's all about balance.
Too little vitamin D can be a problem, and too much can be just as bad.
That's the key. And finding that balance is a personal journey. It involves understanding your own needs, consulting with your healthcare provider, and making informed choices about your lifestyle, diet, and supplements.
It's kind of amazing to think that this tiny little molecule can have such a big impact.
It really speaks to how interconnected our bodies are and how important it is to consider all the pieces of the puzzle when it comes to our health.
It's kind of funny we started this whole deep dive thinking about sunshine and vitamin D, you know? But it's really become about so much more than that. It's about like understanding our bodies and making informed choices and, finding that balance between too much and too little.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of your health and well-being and recognizing that even something as seemingly simple as vitamin D can have, a ripple effect throughout your entire system.
So for you listening, here's what I think is the most important thing to remember from all this research. You can actually optimize your vitamin D levels by being mindful about sun exposure and making smart food choices, and if needed, using supplements under your doctor's guidance. It's about having that whole picture view.
I think that's a great way to sum it up. It's not about fearing the sun or demonizing supplements. It's about understanding the nuances, being informed, and working with your healthcare provider to make the best choices for your individual needs.
Well said, and on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. But as always, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions. Until next time.